The strange hum in the air was the first sign something was wrong. At first, it was subtle, an odd glitch in Earth's communication systems. Then, it grew louder, more distinct. It was a signal unmistakably artificial, and it came from somewhere deep in the void of space. The technicians at the Earth Defense Network stared at their screens in disbelief. What they were hearing was a message, an alien message, and it was unlike anything they had ever intercepted before. "Attention, inhabitants of Earth," the voice crackled, its tone cold and clinical. "You are hereby informed that the Galactic Empire has deemed your planet a target. You will surrender or face immediate destruction. Your resistance is irrelevant." Across the world, people stopped what they were doing. Newsrooms fell silent. Governments scrambled to respond. In a matter of seconds, the entire planet knew Earth was under threat. And the threat was not from the typical alien invaders humanity had come to expect. This was something far worse. This was the Galactic Empire. The Galactic Empire was a name whispered in fear across the cosmos. A regime known for conquering worlds with ruthless efficiency, leaving nothing behind but broken civilizations and scorched planets. No one had ever dared challenge them. Until now. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, world leaders convened in emergency session. The room was packed with the brightest minds in defense, science, and diplomacy, but they all felt the weight of helplessness hanging over them. "We have no idea what we're up against," General Marcus Langley, the head of Earth's Global Defense Command, said as he surveyed the table. "The Empire ships are technologically superior to anything we've seen. Their weapons. They wipe out entire systems in a matter of hours," interrupted Dr. Lena Huang, one of Earth's foremost experts in alien technologies. She leaned over a holographic map of the solar system, where a red hovered ominously near the orbit of Jupiter. "This isn't a normal invasion. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we act." "They're already here," said President Elias Grant, his voice laced with urgency. "The fleet is on its way, and from what we're hearing, they're not interested in negotiation. It's an ultimatum: surrender or be annihilated." The room fell silent. It wasn't fear that gripped them, it was disbelief. After centuries of preparing for alien encounters, no one had truly believed Earth would be in danger of total destruction. Not like this. Not from something so absolute. "What if they're bluffing?" asked the French ambassador, his voice betraying a flicker of hope. "Perhaps they've overestimated their power?" "No," Langley said flatly. "This is no bluff. Every report we've gathered points to an empire that eradicates entire species in the blink of an eye. They don't waste time negotiating with the weak." The weight of that statement hung heavy in the air. As panic set in, some leaders wanted to rally the people, give them hope at least. But others, like General Langley, knew better. This wasn't a war that could be fought with speeches. Earth had no fleet capable of fighting an empire like this. "Humanity needs to face the facts," Langley continued. "The first wave will wipe out our satellites, disrupt communications, and decimate any military response we try to mount. If we can't hold them off in the first few hours, it's over." Yet, there was something in his tone that suggested a glimmer of possibility. President Grant looked at him sharply. "You've got something in mind, don't you, Marcus?" Langley nodded, his gaze shifting to the side of the room where Dr. Huang was standing. She was already typing furiously on her portable console. The hologram on the table flickered as new data streamed in. "We've developed something," Langley said slowly, "something we've kept secret for years. It's unconventional. But if it works, it could be the edge we need." The room went still, all eyes on him. One soldier, one weapon. The Empire has never faced anything like it. The room was filled with murmurs, but no one dared speak over the general. This was their only chance. But even as Langley spoke, doubt crept in. How could one man, with one weapon, stand against the might of an empire that could obliterate entire fleets with a flick of a switch? "You're suggesting we send a single soldier against them?" the British ambassador asked skeptically. "Not just any soldier," Langley responded. "Someone who's been trained for the impossible. Someone who knows how to adapt. Someone who doesn't play by the Empire's rules." Dr. Huang interrupted, her voice cutting through the tension. We're not sending him alone. He'll have access to a weapon the Empire won't see coming, something designed to disrupt their technology and exploit their weaknesses. And for the first time in hours, a sense of cautious optimism settled in. Could humanity really turn the tide? Could they fight back against an empire that had crushed entire civilizations? As the world waited in nervous anticipation, there was one truth that had started to seep into every corner of the Earth's consciousness. The fight had begun, and it was going to be a war unlike any they had ever imagined. Humanity had faced many challenges before, but none of them had been quite like this. In the coming hours, the fate of the Earth would be decided by one man and a weapon that might just be the key to survival, or the catalyst for total annihilation. And as General Langley stared at the hologram of the incoming fleet, he couldn't help but wonder, would humanity's greatest weapon be enough, or had they just signed their own death warrant? The countdown had begun. The message had barely finished transmitting when it happened. A lone figure stood in the midst of chaos, the world's last desperate hope. He wasn't a general. He wasn't a leader. He was just one soldier. And right now, that made all the difference. It had been less than 48 hours since Earth's leaders had gathered to face the imminent invasion. The world was teetering on the brink as the full force of the Galactic Empire loomed on the horizon. General Langley and the Council had already discussed every option they had, none of them good. Earth's defenses, despite decades of preparation, were no match for an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations with a single strike. Send in the Titan, General Langley had said, his voice calm, yet carrying the weight of their survival. Titan, a soldier unlike any the world had ever seen, stood in the shadow of a colossal hangar bay. The hulking war machine before him hummed with raw, untapped power. He had been trained for years, but this moment was different. This wasn't just another mission. This was the only mission. The war machine wasn't just advanced. It was humanity's last shot at survival. Built in secret, beyond the scope of traditional military assets, it was designed specifically to combat the Empire's technology. A weapon so powerful that even the Empire would hesitate. At least, that was the hope. Titan stepped forward, his movements deliberate, each footfall heavy with the knowledge of what was at stake. The war machine, the size of a small skyscraper, was powered by a prototype energy source that had never been tested in combat. It had only one purpose, to fight back the impossible odds. Sir, the fleet is approaching. Dr. Huang's voice crackled through the comms. We can't waste any more time. Titan took a deep breath. I'm ready. Open the bay doors. The team watched as the giant doors slowly slid open, revealing the vast expanse of space and the dark, looming shadows of the Empire's fleet. A calm, almost eerie silence filled the comms as the war machine systems powered up. Godspeed, General Langley muttered under his breath, watching the screens as the first phase of humanity's last defense unfolded. Titan's voice echoed across the bay. Let's end this. As the war machine shot into space, Titan's mind was a battlefield of its own. Years of training, preparation, and sacrifice had led to this singular moment. The invasion wasn't just a war, it was humanity's defining fight. Titan had no illusions about the difficulty of what lay ahead. No one could expect to survive against a force like the Empire. But that didn't matter. Earth had one soldier, one shot, and he would make it count. The moment the war machine entered the Empire's line of sight, the enemy fleet reacted with the precision of a predator locking onto its prey. Multiple ships began charging weapons, focusing their fire on the solitary figure. Titan didn't flinch. His hands moved over the controls, engaging the first of many defensive systems that had been programmed into the war machine. Target locked, Titan muttered, his voice steady. Fire. The war machine's massive cannons roared to life, launching a barrage of projectiles that hit with an intensity the Empire was unprepared for. Explosions tore through the ranks of the enemy fleet, ships disintegrating under the ferocity of the assault. The first wave of invaders was obliterated in mere seconds. The Empire, stunned by the unexpected strength of a lone human weapon, responded with immediate countermeasures. Smaller, faster ships broke off from the main fleet, swarming toward Titan's position. Titan's war machine spun to face the new threat, its thrusters burning with precision as it darted between incoming enemy fire. The smaller ships were fast, but the war machine was faster. Each movement was a calculated strike, each shot a guaranteed hit. The invaders, though more advanced, lacked the unpredictability and adaptability of humanity's strategy. For every ship that fell, 2 more replaced it. The battle was escalating faster than Titan had anticipated, but the war machine's arsenal had only just begun. The Empire's elite soldiers, realizing they couldn't overpower the human machine with numbers alone, began to adapt, launching evasive maneuvers and coordinating their attacks in a desperate attempt to break through. The air around Titan hummed with the intense focus of a battlefield that seemed to stretch across the entire galaxy. But despite the overwhelming odds, one thing became clear. This was not an ordinary fight. The Empire's fleet was relentless, but Titan was relentless, too. For every enemy ship that fell, Titan's resolve strengthened. He wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for the entire planet. And no matter how many ships the Empire sent, no matter how many strategies they employed, the message was the same. Humanity would not go quietly. As the war raged on, the Empire's elite generals began to recalibrate their strategies. They had underestimated the effectiveness of a single human warrior equipped with an unexpected weapon. They had underestimated humanity's resilience. But for Titan, this was just the beginning. The war machine had proven itself. The fight was far from over, but one thing was certain. The Empire's belief in their unassailable might was already starting to crack. Titan looked out at the destruction unfolding before him. His mission had only just begun, but humanity had already sent a clear message. And the invaders, for the first time, were beginning to understand that they had made a grave mistake. The fight for Earth wasn't over. But humanity had just reminded the Empire of one undeniable truth. Never underestimate the power of one. The sky turned to fire. For a moment, the world stood still, watching the immense power of the Galactic Empire unfold. Thousands of ships, each capable of erasing a continent in seconds, moved into position around Earth, blocking out the stars. The alien fleet hovered, silent and unyielding, as the Earth's defenses scrambled, hopelessly outgunned. It was the calm before the storm. Earth had one last card to play, and it was humanity's most desperate gamble. The hyper-advanced war machine that General Langley had unleashed wasn't like anything the Empire had ever encountered. A secret project, years in the making, it was designed for just this moment, to strike fear into the heart of an enemy who thought they had already won. The human soldier, codenamed Titan, was inside the war machine, a one-man army capable of battling the Empire's finest. As the fleet closed in, Titan's hands tightened around the control systems, his mind focusing only on the task ahead. He knew what was at stake, and he knew that failure meant not just death, but extinction for humanity. Activate all systems. Titan's voice echoed through the cockpit, the words a signal to the war machine's artificial intelligence. Immediately, the machine roared to life. Its weapons systems hummed, and its shield generators flared with power, forming an impenetrable barrier around it. Titan wasn't here to negotiate. He wasn't here to plead for mercy. He was here to show the Empire that Earth would not kneel. As the first wave of enemy ships began to fire, a massive energy beam sliced through the sky, hitting Titan's war machine head-on. The impact should have torn him apart, but the shields absorbed the blast with ease. Titan barely flinched. He had known it would come to this. The first strike was always the hardest. Now it was time for his counterattack. With a flick of a switch, the war machine's weapons fired in perfect unison. Explosions rocked the enemy fleet as missiles, lasers, and kinetic projectiles rained down. Ships erupted into fireballs, and their sleek, advanced hulls were no match for the brutal, raw power of humanity's unexpected weapon. Titan's eyes narrowed. The first few ships had fallen, but the Empire wasn't backing down. More ships poured into the battlefield, swarming the machine from all sides. The odds were now greater than ever, but the soldier was unshaken. "Time to show them why they should have never underestimated Earth," Titan muttered under his breath. His hands worked swiftly, maneuvering the machine like an extension of his own body. The war machine moved with deadly precision, dodging enemy fire while returning it with ferocity. For every ship that fell, 3 more took its place. It was an endless wave of invaders, relentless and merciless. But as the battle raged on, something began to shift. The Empire's fleet, once confident in its superiority, began to hesitate. They couldn't track the movements of the war machine. They couldn't predict its strikes. It was unlike anything they had fought before. Titan was not fighting like a soldier. He was fighting like a force of nature. The Empire's commanders, watching from their command ship, were beginning to panic. The strategy they had relied on for centuries, overwhelming firepower and absolute domination, was failing. Titan was too unpredictable, too lethal. "Send in the fleet's elite," a commander ordered through gritted teeth. "The regular forces are ineffective. We need someone who can deal with this anomaly." And so, the elite forces of the Empire were dispatched. These were the soldiers who had crushed entire worlds without mercy, the best of the best. They were the Empire's last hope for victory. As Titan's war machine continued its assault, a new threat emerged. A squadron of elite fighter ships, moving faster and more strategically than anything he had encountered. Titan gritted his teeth, preparing for the next phase of the fight. He had taken down their first wave, but now he faced the true test. Could one man, with a weapon no one thought possible, defeat the Empire's finest? The next moments were a blur of fire and metal. Titan's war machine weaved through the storm of enemy fire, dodging and retaliating with deadly precision. It was a dance of destruction, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. The Empire's elite forces were relentless, but so was Titan. He pushed the machine beyond its limits, knowing that one mistake could cost him everything. The battle had only just begun, and the odds were still stacked against him. But Titan's resolve was unwavering. In the distance, the full force of the Empire's fleet loomed, waiting for the right moment to strike again. The real war had just started, and Titan's fight was far from over. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, one thing was clear. Earth wasn't going down without a fight. And the invaders, no matter how advanced, had just made their first critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity. The invaders were relentless, and this time they weren't playing games. Earth's brief moment of triumph was over. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity once, and now they would make sure that mistake would not be repeated. They were sending in their elite forces, and they were bringing the full wrath of their empire to bear. The fleet, now fully aware of the threat humanity posed, began to shift tactics. No more simple bombardments or reckless assaults. The Empire's leaders had decided, if they couldn't crush Earth's lone warrior with sheer numbers, they would outmaneuver him. They would adapt, and they would break him. Titan's war machine hovered at the edge of the fray, its weapons still firing, its shields holding strong against the incoming fire. The once hopeful battlefield was now turning into a nightmare. The number of enemy ships seemed endless. Titan sensors could barely keep up with the sheer volume of incoming data as the Empire adjusted its strategies. "Target acquisition complete," Titan muttered to himself as he focused on the first wave of elite forces, a squadron of advanced fighters, more agile and more coordinated than anything he had faced so far. These ships weren't just about firepower. They were built to evade, to outthink, and to destroy anything in their path. The first barrage of missiles came in fast, aimed directly at Titan's war machine. He didn't hesitate. The machine's weapon systems whirred to life as he launched a counterattack. In seconds, explosions ripped through the enemy ranks. But this time, it wasn't enough. The Empire's elite pilots were no slouches. They dodged, darted, and fired in split-second precision. Titan's own movements were sharp, but it was no longer a one-sided affair. "Shit," Titan muttered as one of the enemy ships managed to graze the war machine's shields, causing a ripple of distortion across the surface. The shields were designed to withstand massive impacts, but the constant barrage was starting to wear them down. His fuel reserves were low. His ammunition was thinning. And the Empire wasn't stopping. Titan's heart raced in the cockpit. He'd been trained for this. He'd been prepared for the impossible. But this was a new kind of battle. One where even his best wasn't enough. He couldn't keep this up forever. The air around him hummed with energy as the Empire's elites closed in, forcing Titan into a tighter and tighter corner. His every move was being predicted, his every strike countered, before he could even launch it. Suddenly, the comms crackled with a voice he had not expected to hear. "General Langley here. Titan, we've identified a weakness in their fleet. A command ship. It's at the heart of the elite forces, and it's directing everything. If you take it out, the rest of the fleet will fall apart." Titan's grip tightened on the controls. This was the break he needed. "I'm going after it," he said, his voice cold with resolve. "Give me a firing solution." Langley's voice came through again. "You'll need to go in fast. The ship's defenses are top tier, but if you hit it at the right angle, you might get through." Titan's fingers flew across the controls, adjusting the targeting systems. The command ship was well guarded, but Titan had no choice. If he didn't take it out now, he wouldn't survive much longer. The war machine's thrusters flared as it shot forward, dodging enemy fire with incredible speed. The Empire's fighters tried to block him, but they couldn't keep up. Titan was moving too fast, too unpredictably. As he neared the command ship, its formidable defenses locked onto him. A series of energy shields and anti-missile systems were already primed, but Titan was ready. His targeting systems locked in. He couldn't afford a single mistake. Firing sequence initiated. The AI announced in a calm, emotionless voice. Titan slammed the trigger. A massive energy beam shot forward, slicing through the vacuum of space. The blast hit the command ship squarely, but the shields absorbed much of the impact. Titan cursed under his breath, the war machine systems already calculating the next move. The command ship's defensive systems were tough, but Titan was tougher. He recalibrated the war machine's energy output, pushing everything it had into one final attack. The energy levels spiked, and the machine's weapons let loose in a concentrated burst. This time, the shields didn't hold. The beam pierced the command ship's outer hull, then exploded through its core. The resulting blast lit up space like a second sun, and Titan felt the shockwave even inside his machine. The command ship was gone. For a moment, everything was still. And then chaos erupted. The fleet's coordination broke apart. The remaining ships, cut off from their command, began to spiral into confusion. Titan didn't waste a second. He unleashed the full might of the war machine on the disoriented forces. Explosions and debris filled the void as Earth's warrior tore through the Empire's ranks. But as the battle raged on, a chilling realization dawned on Titan. This was only a temporary victory. The Empire was a vast, nearly unstoppable force. The command ship was just one piece of the puzzle. And now, Titan had made himself their primary target. The real war had only just begun. Titan knew it was coming. The warning signals blared in his cockpit, but he didn't need them. The Empire's forces were regrouping, this time with everything they had. Their shattered fleet was nothing compared to what was about to descend on Earth. He was their only target now, and they were coming for him with a vengeance. The aftermath of the destruction of the command ship had been brief but exhilarating. The Empire's elite forces faltered, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed like victory might be within reach. But Titan had known better. This wasn't a battle that could be won with a single blow. The Empire was relentless, and their counterattack was imminent. Now his war machine was alone, surrounded by a sea of enemies. Titan's breath slowed, his fingers tightening around the controls. The war machine systems were damaged, its energy reserves low. He had used every trick he knew to outsmart the Empire, but they had adapted, just as he knew they would. They were smarter, faster, and now they were pissed. The comms crackled to life, and Langley's voice broke through the static. "Titan, we've intercepted a new message from the Empire. They're launching a final assault everything they have. They want you dead. And this time, they're sending their best. Titan didn't respond. He didn't need to. His only answer was the hum of his war machine's engines as he steered it into the heart of the battle. It wasn't a choice anymore. It was a matter of survival. The enemy came at him in waves. First, a swarm of fighter ships, moving with the speed and agility of sharks in water. Titan had no time to think, no time to hesitate. He fired with deadly precision, each shot finding its mark as he danced around incoming fire. The Empire's fighters were skilled, but the war machine's design was superior. They couldn't match the raw power it brought to the table. But as the fighters fell one by one, Titan felt the pull of the Empire's final strategy. An assault force led by a new wave of armored dreadnoughts, each larger than anything he had encountered before. These were the Empire's heavy hitters, their ultimate weapons. They were coming for him. Titan's pulse quickened. He could feel the weight of the battle pressing down on him. Every move counted. If he made a mistake, even a small one, it would be his last. The dreadnoughts opened fire, their massive weapons lighting up space with beams powerful enough to shatter mountains. Titan's shields flared to life, absorbing the first few blows, but he could feel them weakening under the onslaught. He had minutes, maybe seconds, before the shields gave out completely. "Come on," Titan muttered under his breath. "I'm not done yet." He twisted the controls, sending the war machine into a dangerous spiral that narrowly avoided a direct hit. The dreadnoughts were fast, but not fast enough. Titan fired back, sending a barrage of missiles that tore through the smaller dreadnoughts, their massive forms crumbling into fiery debris. But there were too many. The Empire's fleet was overwhelming, and with each second, the odds grew more and more impossible. As his war machine systems began to glitch, Titan's mind raced. He needed a way out. He needed something to turn the tide. Then he saw it, the weak point. One of the dreadnoughts, a behemoth of gleaming metal, had an exposed core. It wasn't much, just a small opening in the armor, barely noticeable. But it was the only shot he had left. Titan pushed the war machine to its limits, racing toward the dreadnought. He knew he would have to take the hit. He would have to sacrifice everything for this one shot. "Let's make this count," Titan whispered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. He fired everything he had, a final, concentrated blast aimed at the vulnerable core. The war machine shook as the explosion erupted. Titan's vision blurred from the force of the blast, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. He pushed through the pain, his hands gripping the controls with every ounce of strength he had left. The dreadnought's core exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Titan felt the shockwave rip through his war machine, but he didn't let go. The dreadnought collapsed in on itself, a massive fireball consuming everything in its path. The remaining ships faltered, their commanders scrambling for a new plan. Titan had done it. He had struck the heart of the Empire's final assault. But as the dust settled, a deep, sinking feeling took hold of him. This was just the beginning. The Empire would come again, stronger than ever. He could feel the weight of it all. Humanity's future, the lives of billions, resting on his shoulders. As the battle raged on, Titan knew this. There was no going back. This would be the last stand for Earth. And no matter the cost, he would make sure they knew one thing. Earth was not a world to be conquered. The last of the Empire's fleet was breaking apart, and with it, the illusion of their invincibility. Titan's war machine, battered and bruised, hovered in the silence of space, surrounded by the wreckage of what had once been a vast, unstoppable force. But as the final explosions echoed through the vacuum, one truth stood clear. Humanity had just destroyed the Empire's might in a way no one thought possible. The Empire's elites had thought themselves invulnerable, omnipotent in their control over the galaxy. They had believed Earth's military was primitive, their technology laughable. But as the last of their ships crumbled under the relentless assault, the once mighty Empire found itself crumbling alongside it. Titan had become a symbol. One man, in a single war machine, had dismantled their entire strategy. But victory wasn't without cost. Titan's war machine was nearly out of power, its systems barely functional. His body ached from the constant strain of combat. Yet as he surveyed the debris floating in space, once proud ships now reduced to flaming husks, he couldn't help but feel the rush of triumph. The Empire was broken, but there was no time to celebrate. The remaining fleet, now a disorganized mess of confused survivors, was regrouping. They would fight to the last ship, desperate to salvage whatever they could. But it wouldn't be enough. General Langley, the Empire is retreating. Dr. Huang's voice crackled through the comms. They've lost their command structure. Without it, they're scattered and vulnerable. Good, Titan replied, his voice hoarse but determined. It's time to finish this. Titan's war machine powered up, one final surge of energy coursing through its systems. He could feel the war machine's thrusters ignite, the last push of strength he would need to end the battle for good. The Empire's remaining fleet was pulling back, retreating toward their deep space command ship, their last hope of regrouping. Titan knew what he had to do. The mission was clear: destroy the command ship, the heart of the Empire's operations. With it gone, the scattered remnants of the fleet would be leaderless, and the threat to Earth would be over. Titan's fingers moved over the controls, guiding the war machine toward the remaining command ship, its massive silhouette looming in the distance. As he approached, the few surviving ships made one last, desperate attempt to stop him. But they were too late. Titan launched every weapon in his arsenal, the final missiles, the last of his energy beams, all aimed squarely at the command ship. His heart raced as the weapons fired, the sheer force of the attack shaking his entire machine. The explosion that followed was like nothing he had ever witnessed. The command ship disintegrated in a brilliant flash of light, its remains scattered across the void. In the wake of the explosion, silence fell. The remaining ships, now without direction, scattered into space. The battle was over. The Empire had fallen. As Titan's war machine slowly powered down, the weight of the moment began to settle in. Earth had survived. But at what cost? The war was over, but the scars would remain. The damage to Earth's own forces, the loss of life, it was all part of the price paid for survival. General Langley, Titan said quietly, his voice reflecting the exhaustion that had settled over him. It's done. The Empire is finished. Langley's voice came through the comms, filled with a mix of disbelief and pride. You did it, Titan. You've saved Earth. Titan looked out into the emptiness of space, watching the debris float by. For a moment, he didn't say anything. There were no words to capture what he felt. The war was over, but the victory was bittersweet. The galaxy had just learned a hard lesson. Never underestimate humanity. Earth is won, Titan finally said, his voice steady despite the toll the battle had taken on him. But this is just the beginning. The Empire was gone, but Earth's place in the universe had just begun to take shape. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity had proven its worth. And that alone had changed everything.